And so there's a lot of things that we take into consideration when we look at future plans.
For sure, needs and wants in a property is high on the list as well too. And
Yeah.
having those conversations about, is that a need or is that a want? Just because there is that point where, it's going to adjust for each property.
Right.
Well, welcome again to another episode of the Bamford Co podcast, Beyond the Keys. I'm here with my brother Gregg Bamford here. We're going to give you 4 factors today that we are always looking for out for our clients with. Gregg, if you want to maybe give us an idea of how we look at the pricing side of each individual property.
Right, for sure. Thanks, Ryan. So when we look at the 4 factors, we're looking at pricing, we're looking at preparation, negotiation, and then what your future plans are. But when I go into pricing, the one thing that I'm first looking at is I want to come and take a look at your property so that I can view it to be able to do an evaluation. How we do that is that when I've seen your property, I'll go back and look at comparable properties that have sold recently in your neighborhoods and try to figure out what is the best price to be able to price your property at. That is something that sometimes with experience comes how we can push that price to maybe be able to sell above what the average selling price is in that market. But it's usually kind of communicating also with our team to kind of figure out what our thought process are when we do that, what we call a CMA or a property evaluation, right? So pricing is probably one of the most important things of understanding, I guess, what your potential is, like what your worst case scenario is and what your best case scenario is within today's market. Pricing also comes into suggesting maybe the way that you might do presentation of offers, or you might be able to price it as high as you possibly can and then still get that exposure. So that's kind of how pricing overall works. And so it's with years of experience, we figure out how to best maximize the return on your property.
Perfect. That was very detailed. I like it. Yeah. I guess the other one thing is that I would add to that is that a lot of times is that we're looking at what that prospective buyer is looking at your property and how maybe they see your upgrades, or maybe if, what value those are going to be for them. So I think it's not always just about comparing, one property to one property just because they're not apples to apples, right? There's going to be adjustments that we are, I guess, doing. And also it's not just about the cost of those renovations, it's what the value of prospective buyers are seeing today.
And I think that's where, I guess, the next step is preparation.
Right.
I guess that's where that comes into, right? So it's like the reason that there's 4 factors is that we can't do one without doing all of them. Right. So then when we look at preparation, how does that look?
Well, preparation, is that a lot of times we'll do that walkthrough of the property. Is it I'm going to give, and I'm sure you do too, is it different different examples of how you can improve the property so that buyer is going to be able to find the most value in some of your updates or renovations. That could be anywhere from decluttering your property, depersonalizing, taking down personal photos, those kind of things. So people are actually looking at the property when they're viewing it. The other thing would be to, we always send Amy Lauren Interior Designs in as well too to do a staging consultation. What they do there is they give you room by room detail, so all clients know exactly what their to-do list is, and they have a checkpoint or checklist so they can complete those tasks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, preparation depends on how long you've lived in the property. I mean, some of our clients have lived in property for 41 years. Their preparation to get their property ready is a lot different than someone that bought a new house 4 years ago and might just need to touch up paint because their kids or their animals just destroyed the corners, right, of their walls and so forth. So every property is a little bit different depending on the people that live there.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we're doing is that we're not walking in and telling people that they need to do massive renovations. A lot of it's, paint is obviously probably something that has great return value for any buyer out there. A lot of it's making it so people can move into the property right off the bat, that they're not looking that it needs a ton of work or a ton of renovations immediately. Right. That's usually how we can kind of get to that top dollar value. We are looking at something that would be a minimal investment to be able to, first off, sell your home faster and for more money.
For sure. Like we always look at it as like we want to turn every single one of our listings into its own show home. right? And
sure.
so it's just like by decluttering it and making it so that people see the space as soon as they walk in rather than your things or the work that they need to do is going to maximize your return. So the preparation before photos is probably the most important thing because everything that we use to be able to market is usually photos and videos, right? And so that's how we maximize that return.
And you only get one first impression. Is that you don't get a second option for if they didn't like it that they're going to come back and view it.
Yeah,
you know, so you have to make that the best first impression the first time. And if you're not doing that, is that you will notice a difference in timelines in the market and then the sale price as well too.
For sure.
Yeah. So I guess the next one that we'll be looking at is that once we make this property beautiful and we actually find some buyers that are interested in it, how does the negotiating factor come in? Like, you've had a little experience in this industry. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, negotiating, I mean, we quite enjoy the negotiating side of it. I mean, one thing that we're looking at is how long the property's been on the market, and how we then work with our clients to then maximize that return. Negotiating could be where we, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, is like if it is a very suitable home for a lot of buyers, a lot of times in today's market, we'll do presentation of offers. So that means that we'll list a property a certain day. We usually pick a Tuesday, and just because it maximizes the amount of views and people to show it, and then we'll present offers later on in that week, and that could be either Thursday or Friday. So it gives people the time to be able to go through it, and because we believe that there will be a lot of buyers for that property, then at that time we would do presentation, we'd meet with our clients, and we'd go over how many offers we got. And then what we're looking for when we're looking at the negotiating side is what's the best offer, what's the best price, what's the condition timelines and so forth that looks out for our client's best needs, right? Mm-hmm. In other ways, we can, instead of the presentation of offers, what we can also do is we can look at pricing that property as high as it possibly can without overpricing it. And then that also helps with the negotiating factor. So if we think that there's not as many people that are going to look at the property, then we might price it higher. So if you're looking at $1 million home, presentation of offers usually doesn't work, right? Because the amount of people that can buy it. So the negotiating factor on that is that we'll then price that. Once we get offers, we'll sit down and be able to then justify to that buyer as agent why we value the property, and that's because of comps and experience and so forth, the way that it works, right? So yep. On the negotiating side, there's a lot of experience that comes into it from our point of view, but I guess it's from years of experience of understanding, I guess, the agents that we're working with, negotiating with, and time on market and so forth. So the negotiating's a super important thing. It's just, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. And one thing I'd like to add about that is that we're also the ones that are looking big picture as well too. I know a lot of times when the negotiating is happening is that sometimes you're just looking at the price or just one condition that you don't like.
Right.
At the same time is that we're looking at how this is going to move you forward and maybe get you into that next house. What's the best case for you? Right, and I think that sometimes that gets lost in some of the minor details in the negotiating as well too.
Yeah, thanks for adding those points. I mean, but the fourth factor is future plans. So, I mean, we've got these three factors that we've just kind of broken down of how we look at real estate and so forth. But unless we understand your future plans, we don't know how to really help you as much as we possibly can. So, Ryan, can you break down future plans and what might that entail?
I guess, like you said, they all lean into each other. Hey,
yeah,
future plans is a big one. Is it we need to be looking at market conditions, you know, where they're planning on going. If it's maybe looking at, you know, someone building a new home, what kind of timelines that they're going to need. They obviously don't want to carry two properties at one point, so being able to time those kind of things is crucial for people. Maybe it's a first-time home buyer that they're looking at, you know, only living in this property for 2 to 3 years. So we could be looking at maybe, you know, finding something that we know that's going to have great resale value for that, and that they're going to increase with the market as well. So, or it could be moving off an acreage or even right sizing into a property. We do see that a lot, but I think it's looking at the big picture, taking all the market information into fact, and then looking at what's best for you and your family. You know, I think that those are kind of the future plans and the major things that we're looking at in that regard.
Yeah, and especially in today's market, a lot of times we're not selling your property until we found you something.
Right.
Right. And I think that's probably the biggest factor. So every market's totally different, right? Like if we were looking at 2019, there'd be a ton of properties on the market that we could choose from, right?
Yeah.
And
We
so
go out and say, hey, do you want to see 6 houses today?
6 houses, yeah.
That all meet the parameters?
100%. And then we'd jump in our vehicle and go take a look, and there'd be lots of options, right? And so your future plans all depend on what's happening in today's market, and also making sure that you don't take yourself out of the market.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if you would have bought a property at the beginning of 2024 and you sold your property and didn't find something, let's say your house was 400 grand and you didn't be able to, be able to find something by the end of the year, you could have just left $80,000 just sitting there on the table, right? Depending on if you're a bungalow and so forth in certain neighborhoods and the rest of it. So these are all things that when we sit down with our clients, we explain what the different options are to be able to help them get to where they want to be with their future plans. So there's a lot of different factors that we take into consideration when we're helping our clients. And really it's about helping them. I mean, the one thing that I look at too is that when we're looking to show a property to a client, we're not selling that property to that client. We're helping them understand the value of that property or the neighborhood and so forth, more picking it apart so that they get to see our perspective, right? And so there's a lot of things that we take into consideration when we look at future plans.
For sure. Needs and wants in a property is high on the list as well too.
Yeah.
And having those conversations about, is that a need or is that a want? Just because there is that point where, it's going to adjust for each property.
Right. Yeah. And in today's market, unfortunately, you don't always get what you want. It's trying to get you as many of those things as you possibly can, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks again for joining us for our podcast. We're here to be your go-to real estate team in Saskatoon. We want to provide value for you to give you the advantage within real estate to be able to buy and sell your properties. And I mean, we care. Like we really want what's best for you, and we want to lead you through what we figured as our kind of our trusted system, right? To be able to then help our clients. And it's taken 20 years. We established Bamford Co in 2005. So we've been in the business for a long time. And to be honest, the market that we're in right now is how we started real estate.
It truthfully is. Yeah.
Right? Back in the day, we used to see properties, we'd write 50 grand over list on a property, and by the time people took possession, is worth $40,000 more than what they actually wrote on the property. And so they say we cut our teeth or whatever, but this is like how we got into real estate, right? So it's so we can help you out with these things because we understand what people are going through, and our job is to try to take the emotions out of real estate and to give you facts and things that will make it successful for you with the journey of buying and selling.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Greg. I think we got a lot of information for our viewers out there. And if you are looking, obviously Greg and I are here to be able to help you with any of your real estate needs. Like he was saying, we want to be your resource for anything real estate. So also follow us on all of our social media for Bamford Co. Or if you're a client, we'll be in touch soon as well.
Yeah, for sure. We think that sometimes getting an evaluation and understanding what you need to do to get ready to sell, it's never too early, because some people are looking at 2 months, some people are looking at 6 months or a year or two, but some properties take longer to prepare to get ready for sale. So reach out to us. We can give you a free evaluation, and we're just happy to help. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Greg.